friend of mine has a workbench, and he has these casters that attach to the legs on the side of the leg like this, and when he pushes this lever down, it's supposed to engage the caster so he can move the bench around, and when he pops the lever back up, the leg goes back on the ground. Well, these are supposed to be able to handle 600 pounds, he says, and I don't know if that's per caster or if that's total, but needless to say, his workbench, I'm sure, doesn't weigh 600 pounds even when he's got stuff on it. And as you can see, it bent that plate where the caster mounts to, and so it doesn't work anymore. So I am going to replace this cheap galvanized plate with a little bit more substantial piece of steel. So I've already taken the caster off, and now I'm going to take the plate itself off and start getting some dimensions so I can see if I have any stock that'll be a good substitute for this. Well, that's nice, that lock. That nylon lock nut is just completely loose. Couple washers. Go ahead and put this back so I don't lose any of these pieces. So this is the part we'll be fabricating a new one for, and I'm going to make them 4 of them so that they're all a little bit more robust than this. So let's see, this is 0.121 inches. And according to the decimal equivalent scale on the back of my handy stare-it rule, 0.15 is an eighth, obviously, so it's a little less than an 1/8 inch thick. So let's see what I've got that's a little thicker. I haven't decided yet how I'm going to handle this part that the hinge pin goes through. My original thought was to take some round stock, drill a hole all the way through it, and weld it to the new plate. But I'm not sure yet. Go take a look through my stock and see what I've got. Okay, so I picked up some 3/16 inch steel bar. That's the right width, and I'm going to cut it into the right lengths. First I'm going to trim off the end, make sure it's nice and square, nice cut, and then I'll make 4 of the right lengths, and then we'll see about finishing the rest of the pieces. Alright, so we've got our 4 blanks cut out to make 4 new plates. I'll take these over to the deburring wheel and deburr the edges, and then I think what I'm going to do is clamp them up together and put them in the mill and clean up these edges, these 2 ends. Make those look a little nicer, and then drill the hole for the casters. Just do all 4 of them at once. And then I picked up some hollow square tube to make the hinge out of. So we'll cut that to length and then weld that in place, and that should do it. Okay, so now I'm going to use the deburring wheel and clean up these edges. This thing's just about worn out. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. These things work awesome. Now I'm going to make some layout lines on one of these. I'm going to put them in the mill ganged up so that I don't have to do them one at a time. Let that dry a little bit, because these pieces are cut at an angle. You can see it kind of goes straight and then out, and it won't fit on the bracket unless I narrow that dimension down. So we'll scribe that and do that cutting on the mill. Okay, the die chem is dry. Now I'm just going to trace the outline of the original piece. None of this is precision work. It's just Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is just clean up these ends. As I said, these aren't critical, but might as well make them look nice while we're doing it. Not sure if those are going to clamp in there okay, or if I'm going to need something in there. Oh yeah, those aren't going anywhere. Alright, I think what I'm going to do is just turn these sideways in the vise and mill up to the line progressively, and then clean up the cut on the belt grinder. Probably the belt grinder. Oh, yeah. I'm going to take a full pass across here because I just realized that I should do this operation after I drill the hole. So those are still square to each other. I can grab some parallels, clamp them in the vise, drill the hole, then go back and do this operation. Otherwise it'll be harder to hold these parts. A little better. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Definitely need something in there. Did it? Alright, let's clean up these edges, get this show on the road. So now we need to cut 4 pieces of this square tubing to 1 5/8 inch length. I'll set my stop here so I can make it easier to cut those. Okay, time to weld these pieces together. I've cleaned them all up and got everything ready to go. The first one's clamped down to my welding table, and let's weld these up, and then I'll show you the biggest final mistake that I made. So here's a look at what just came off of my grinder. Remember, safety first. Caught that on film, huh? My flap wheel exploded. Alright, so after all this excitement, the parts are finally done. Let's see how they fit. What I can do to take some of that out. Because it's rocking and it's causing part of it to go off. Here are the completed brackets. I actually ended up remaking them because the original ones I was making based on the design of the ones from the manufacturer ended up being a little smaller than was ideal, and they didn't really fit very well inside of the main part of the bracket. So I redesigned them to take up the entire width so that washers aren't needed as spacers, and makes them a little bit more little bit easier to use. The lever pushes down, it's got a lot more area to push on. Only other thing I did is I also decided to not grind down the welds, because I actually started getting fairly decent at it this time, and they're not extremely pretty, but they're pretty well done, I think. And hit a little bit with the grinding wheel just to get the spatter off, but I left all the rest of the weld intact. It's not something you're really going to see anyway. It's buried back up behind here. And anyway, that's it for these.